It is 3 in the morning, the house is freezing and somebody has to get up. There is no bathroom, there is a pot under the bed, and that is the whole system. The flush toilet already existed. It had for 200 years. Almost nobody wanted one. This household stands in for most of humanity, for most of recorded time. Their problem is yours. The difference is where it went afterwards. Start with the pot, because nearly everyone started with the pot. It lived under the bed or in a cupboard built into the bed. The rich version was furniture, a padded box with a lid called a close stool. At the English court, one man's whole job was attending the king's close stool. The groom of the stool. It sounds like a punishment. It was one of the most powerful posts at court. He had the king alone every day with nobody else in the room. Back downstairs, somebody had to empty it, and that somebody was rarely the man of the house. In a town, emptying it often meant the street below. The window opened, a warning was shouted, and down it went. Edinburgh had a word for that warning, gardyloo. Streets sloped to a gutter down the middle, and rain carried it away. When it did not rain, it stayed. A better house had a cesspit, a brick-lined hole under the yard or under the building. Everything drained into it, and it filled over years rather than days, which meant a household could ignore it for a long time, until they could not. Then men came after dark to dig it out by hand, nightmen, gong farmers. The pay was very good because the work could kill you. The gas in a sealed pit is real. So that is the system. Now the question everyone actually wants answered. What did they use? Whatever was to hand, and it depended entirely on where you lived. Moss was the good option, soft, absorbent, and it grows everywhere wet. Straw and leaves were the ordinary option, and they were not kind. On the coast, shells, smooth ones held flat. It worked better than it sounds. In rural America, dried corn cobs kept in a basket by the seat. The rich used cloth. Somebody washed it. That was somebody's actual job. Before Rome, one thing worth knowing. Mohenjo-daro, in what is now Pakistan, had street drains and washing floors in ordinary houses. 4,500 years ago, Orkney's Skara Brae has stone channels under its homes from around 3000 BC. Some of these look like toilets. None of this was steady progress. Rome had the strangest answer, and it is one that shocks people most. A long stone bench, a row of holes, 20 people side by side. No doors, no partitions, no privacy of any kind. People talked there, did business there, complained about dinner there. And in front of the bench ran clean water for a sponge on a stick. Whether those were shared or personal is argued over. The Romans never wrote it down. Under all of it ran a real sewer. The Cloaca Maxima drained Rome into the Tiber. It was built before the emperors, and parts of it still carry water today. Then Rome fell, and Western Europe lost that along with everything else. Castles went back to gravity, a stone seat in the wall and a long drop outside. It was called a garderobe. That word means wardrobe, and clothes really did hang in there. On purpose. The smell kept moths out of the wool. Everyone downhill paid for it. The monasteries did it properly, and centuries earlier than anyone gives them credit for. They diverted a stream under a long row of latrines and let running water do the work. 600 years before anybody used the word plumbing. Now go east, where none of this counted as waste at all. In Japan, it was collected, carried away, and sold to farmers as fertiliser. It was priced by the diet of the household it came from. A rich house was worth more. Landlords claimed it as rent. Which brings us back to that first question, the flush toilet. It was invented in 1596 by John Harrington, a godson of Elizabeth I, who wrote a whole book about it. He built one for the Queen. She used it. He was very pleased with himself. And then almost nobody built another one for nearly 300 years. Not because it didn't work, it worked. Because in a house with no sewer, a flush toilet makes things worse. It moves the problem, it does not remove it. Flush it and it goes into the same pit that was always there, with gallons of water behind it. Pits that took years to fill were filling in months, and then coming back. Into cellars, into the street, into the well the household drank from. And the pipe that carried it out carried something back. An open pipe from a cesspit to a house is a chimney for whatever is down there. So the houses with the newest, most expensive toilets smelled worse than the houses with pots. The fix was tiny, and it took another 180 years. 1775, a bend in the pipe. Alexander Cumming, a Scottish watchmaker, patented a pipe that curves back on itself. Water sits in the curve and never drains out. Nothing can get past standing water. That is the whole invention. Every toilet on earth still uses it. But a sealed toilet still needed somewhere to send it, and a whole city was about to find that out. 4 years earlier, cholera had killed hundreds of people around one street in London. A doctor named John Snow mapped every death, and they clustered around one pump, Broad Street. He argued the water was carrying it and had the handle taken off. The outbreak was already fading by then, so the handle did not end it. The map is what mattered. Most people did not believe him. Everyone knew disease came from bad air. It took a hot summer and the river to change their minds. 1858. The smell of the Thames got so bad that Parliament could not sit. They soaked the curtains in lime to make the building usable, and they still gave up. They called it the Great Stink. It is the reason any of this got funded. Not the science, not the dead, their own noses in their own building. Joseph Bazalgette built 80 miles of main sewers under London, egg-shaped so even a low flow runs fast enough to keep the walls clean. He worked out the size the city needed, then he doubled it. That one decision is why they still work 160 years later. And only then, with somewhere for it to go, did the flush toilet finally win. 3 centuries late. So look at your bathroom, because almost none of it is modern. The bend in the pipe is 1775. The sewer under your street is Victorian. The newest part is the door. The idea that this should be private at all is the recent bit. Versailles gets blamed for having no toilets at all. That one is not true. It had hundreds of close stalls and some of the earliest flush toilets in France. It had a smell problem like everywhere else did. It did not have a plumbing problem. Then there is Japan. Heated seats, warm water. In most Japanese homes, and has been for 40 years, the rest of us are still on the 18th century design. That household at 3 a.m. used the pot and went back to bed. Somebody emptied it at first light and nobody thought it was worth mentioning. Which raises one more question. Fed, warm and sorted. What did people actually do for fun? That's the next one. It's on screen now.